Happy birthday, girl! Happy birthday.
Growing up, everyone wanted to know the Hopkins twins.
Both girls were literally picture perfect. They seemed to have it all.
They had a certain magic. They really cast a spell over everybody they met.
But beneath their confident smiles, Jean and Jane were keepers of the same dark secret.
Nobody could have seen what was coming.
They were living in a constant hell.
And soon, their private nightmare
Right there!
becomes an unspeakable reality.
There was water running down the stairs and bloodstains.
They were both on a path to death and destruction, which they really couldn't control.
She truly believed she did what she had to do.
It's nearly 5 p.m., and Clayton Elliott has been unable to get a hold of his ex-wife all day.
He called Jane to check on the children.
After a couple of hours, he became concerned that something wasn't right.
It wasn't like Jane to ignore calls or act irresponsibly. She was every bit an exemplary mother.
Jane was a very charming woman and highly educated, very kind. Jane was very active in her children's lives, and she was also close to her family, especially her twin sister, Jean.
Overcome with worry, Clayton heads straight for Jane's house.
Jane? When he got there, observed her car in the driveway, which led him to believe she was home.
Jane? Jane!
So he then walked around to the back of the house and saw a door standing ajar.
He went inside, and what he found was a nightmare come true.
It was a scene like out of the movie.
He saw the pool of blood, and he just lost it.
Jane? Jane! Olivia! Jane!
Twin sisters Jane and Jean Hopkins were born into the best of families.
The Hopkins twins' father, Glenn Sr., was very, very successful in Van Buren, Arkansas. He had a furniture company, he had extensive real estate holdings, and a share in a nursing home.
Ann Hopkins was a typical Southern lady. She stayed home and raised her children rather than work.
There were 4 children. The twins were the 2 youngest, and everybody loved the twins.
Wonder what's in here.
They had a certain magic. They really cast a spell over everybody they met.
As they grew, the Hopkins sisters remained one and the same.
Jean and Jane Hopkins always dressed identically. They had the same bobs cut in the same manner.
Even though they were fraternal twins, it was nevertheless hard to tell them apart because they really adopted twinness. So the dressing alike is symbolic of just how close they are. They're almost one psyche.
And that's exactly how Jean and Jane liked it.
They never wanted to compete against each other for anything. They were shockingly close.
They were best friends and created their own little private world.
Though they shared a secret universe, the Hopkins twins still got along well with others.
Growing up as wealthy as they were, Jean and Jane were very humble girls.
They weren't stuck up or anything. They never looked down on anybody else, and they were very much loved.
As teenagers, only the slightest of differences set them apart.
Jean was the social butterfly. She was voted Miss Van Buren High School. She was also student council president.
Jane was far more studious. She was bookish. She would stay at home reading.
But their differences only strengthened their bond.
You know, most twins feel the need to do better than the other. That was not the case for Jean and Jane Hopkins.
They didn't resent each other's success. They supported each other, and it seemed whatever accomplishment one twin managed, the other was happy because whatever one twin was able to do reflected well on the other twin.
Both girls were literally picture perfect. According to everybody who knew them, they seemed to have it all, and much was expected of each of these girls because of just how perfect they had been all of their lives. Everybody in Van Buren expected great things from Jean and Jane Hopkins.
But sometimes perfection comes with a price.
They're from a well-to-do family in Arkansas. The expectations would be high that they would have everything they need to succeed, and that they will succeed because they were pretty and outgoing and able to get along with people. That actually added to the pressure that there's no reason to see any limits for them. They should be able to become whatever they set themselves to become and really excel at that. So once people have that idea and that's communicated, the pressure is on to live up to that.
In 1974, Jean and Jane graduate with honors from Van Buren High School.
Both girls decided to go to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, which was about an hour from home.
While they remained the best of friends, Jean and Jane make small steps in separate directions.
They both are academically brilliant, but once again, Jean was the more outgoing one. She loved attending parties, going out meeting people, and she loved to network.
Come on.
Jane was more academic. She was studying for a chemical engineering degree, and she would do a lot of reading and stay behind in her room.
Jane was not flamboyant, but she had a very graceful charm about her. She was knowledgeable about many subjects. She was always well-dressed, a beautiful lady, in every sense of the word.
After graduating with honors, the twins take their already stellar educations even further.
Jean was accepted to Southern Methodist University. Perfect for any Southern socialite hoping to further her status. It's no surprise that Jean chose SMU as the place where she would get her master's degree. Southern Methodist University is truly the creme de la creme of the South. It speaks volumes just within the name of itself. That is a natural placement, if you will, for somebody who had been as successful as she had been socially before even attending SMU.
And Jane was accepted into Harvard Graduate Business School, so she moved to Massachusetts to study there.
Though poised for even more success, the separation is difficult on the sisters.
Well, this was the first time in their lives that Jane and Jane Hopkins had ever been apart, and they were now 1,000 miles apart, but they still kept in regular touch. They phoned each other constantly, and they wrote letters.
Their home is within this twin ship, and to have that separation of geographical distance could be traumatizing.
Yet Jean and Jane continue to thrive.
Upon graduation, Jean was hired at the nationally acclaimed brokerage house of Goldman Sachs.
It was a very prestigious job. She was a high flyer. She really wanted to get into high society. She had aspirations, and she managed to network herself into the very prestigious Slipper Club, rather snobby organization that didn't like outsiders. And eventually, Jean was elected president of the Slipper Club, which nobody could believe.
It's just unheard of for anybody not being from Dallas to be named president of the Slipper Club. It's an envious position by any standards.
Jane heads in a very different direction.
Jane met Clayton Elliott Jr., and she fell madly in love. Upon graduation,
Jane Hopkins, will you be my wife?
Yes.
And the marriage was a top society wedding, which was covered by the New York Times.
And Jean isn't far behind.
I got a letter from your sister.
Yeah.
Oh, how's she doing?
Great. She's great.
Doing good?
coincidentally, Jean had fallen in love roughly the same time with her soulmate. She met and married Raymond Bird just 1 year after her sister. Even though they were living hundreds of miles apart, their lives mirrored each other still.
Both twins had it all. They had looks, they had brains, they had husbands. What more could anyone ask?
But this charmed life won't last long.
There were forces that were coming in which would change everything for the worst.
Why would you do that to you and your kids?
It was definitely one of the most difficult cases I'd ever been involved in.
Twin sisters Jean and Jane Hopkins have beauty, brains, and a prestigious family name.
Jean and Jane Hopkins were born into a life full of everything that any little girl could ever dream of.
But their picture-perfect existence might be too good to be true. Jean and her husband Raymond have been living in an affluent neighborhood in Dallas for 1 year.
Jean's life seems to be really taking off. At the same time, she's having a sense of disturbance.
Soon after she moved to Dallas, Jean began worrying that there was a figure that was after her and threatening her.
The man is someone she knew in college, and now he'd become a strange and persistent presence.
Hi, neighbor.
Hi.
Jean had this feeling that this man truly was out to get her.
He's out there.
What? He's out there.
Although there were certain investigations done by the families and others, nothing was ever really found.
Jean's fear soon spills over to the office.
She said that this man from her past was out to get her, was out to tell her boss horrible things that could ruin the Hopkins family name. Her fears for what this man might do to her got so out of control
It created a big scandal there, I think, which ended up with her having to leave the brokerage. Ray was very concerned when his wife started, becoming paranoid and talking about forces that were after her, and he wanted to do everything he could to help.
With this mysterious man haunting her every move, Jane quits her job and begins to unravel.
Concerned. Is she going nuts? Why is she thinking this? Or is somebody really following her?
Jane?
She was fearful to the degree that she wouldn't go anywhere.
You all right?
Just when it seems that no one can help her, Jane finally gets some relief from her twin.
Jane's husband, Clayton Elliott, got a great job with a real estate firm in Dallas.
They moved, and the twins were now reunited.
Hey, look who I found.
Hi. Hi. Welcome. So how's it?
They lived in the same street, a few doors away from each other.
These look great. Yeah.
It seems to have actually helped Jane feel better because she has her twin there, and they recreate this private world that they had shared as kids.
They started seeing a lot of each other and became very, very close.
I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry.
And Jane was there trying to help her, and talk things through. And I think having Jane there with her made things a lot more positive.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
With her other half by her side, the mysterious man disappears from life completely. Not long after the twins are reunited, Jane and Jean decide to start families of their own.
So cute. That cute little thing right here. The wings come out. Dragons. Oh my goodness. Kids can.
Jane had a baby boy that she named Clayton Elliott III. They would call him Clee.
Just 3 years later, the twins become pregnant at the same time. Jean has a boy, and Jane has a girl.
And then a year later, Jean had another little boy called Riley.
The twins were thrilled with motherhood.
3 little, 2 little.
Their lives seemed to be on exactly the right track.
But the Hopkins twins' newfound happiness is short-lived. The mysterious man from Jean's past suddenly reappears.
Once again, she thought there were forces from her past that were coming after her, and she became very, very scared and paranoid for her life.
Meanwhile, just a few doors down, Jane is having troubles of her own.
What happened?
What happened? You were sitting right there. That's what.
Everybody thought they were a great couple,
Yeah, you were sitting.
but there was a lot of friction inside and resentment.
You said you got dinner at night.
What are you even doing wrong?
To everyone's surprise, Clayton and Jane announced they were getting divorced.
Not fair.
Again.
That is not fair
Get
that
the
you
heck
do
out
that.
of here.
Clayton cited irreconcilable differences and claimed that Jane took out her anger toward him on Clee and Olivia.
He's so concerned about the children, he takes action.
Clayton went for custody of the children, but the judge sided with Jane,
Get out!
gave primary custody to her, but allowed Clayton to still have access to see them.
Out! Out of here!
Jane, who is supposed to be the proper wife and mother, thinks she's an utter failure. That would not have been very easy for her. And Jean is talking about a man who has it in for her, who's following her. She's afraid for herself and her children. She just doesn't feel safe at all. Jane has a sympathetic ear, even if she too sees no evidence for what her twin is saying, she'll be much more inclined to feel like, I think she's telling the truth.
And soon, Jane's sympathy turns into belief.
Jane also started believing that this mysterious man that Jean and Jane knew in college was out to get them.
Hey, kids, let's go in the house. Come on. Let's go in the house.
The mystery man doesn't let up.
She told me that there was somebody at her window. This person could kill her.
And the twins are forced to take desperate measures.
They were both on a path to death and destruction, which they really couldn't control.
Grotesque beyond imagination.
Twins, Jean and Jane Hopkins, have become paralyzed by fear.
Both Jean and Jane believed that they were being stalked. There was no answer as to why this mysterious man was out to get them. But they suffered from something very, very real.
Jane is able to keep her fears under wraps. But after living in terror for nearly 6 years, Jane Hopkins is on the verge of collapse.
Jean was terrified. She just thought that her life and her children's lives were in danger and somebody was going to kill them.
Jean.
Jean just went further and further down.
Jean!
She became suicidal, and her family, fearing for her life, had her admitted into a mental hospital.
And it's there in the hospital that the real enemy is finally revealed.
They found that she was bipolar.
I'd like to give you an update on your wife. When she came.
Bipolar disorder has depression as one feature and excitation or manic symptoms as another feature.
We get her on some regular medication. Get her to it.
That a person could get so manic that they could actually have a psychotic break.
He's here.
Jean. Jean.
Man in black, he's here.
Jean, what?
She went into these psychotic delusional states,
Calm down.
No.
Jean.
Right there.
There's nobody there, Jean.
and she was able to develop a very detailed delusion of somebody following her. She was very paranoid.
The family learns there never was a man stalking Jean. It was all part of her delusions.
People can have a psychotic episode but sound reasonable and actually have logic in what they're saying, but they're cut off from reality. So you could have a stalker delusion, for example, and you could describe it and make sense out of it for yourself so that other people can clearly understand you and they don't think you're necessarily, crazy. But the problem is that they're not going to recognize that as psychosis.
At last, she gets the help she so desperately needs.
He prescribed her an antipsychotic and antidepressant drugs.
Proper medication can help the symptoms of a bipolar disorder, but there's no guarantee.
With her family by her side,
I'm doing good. Yeah, much better.
Jean begins the recovery process in the hospital.
Bye-bye.
Meanwhile, twin sister Jane continues to live with that same terror. Even after learning of Jean's diagnosis, she continues to believe that the man who once stalked her sister is still after her.
Just like Jean had suffered, Jane still had this, and it was getting worse and worse.
Always the more reserved twin, Jane suffers in silence.
Jane never acknowledged that she was being stalked. There was no hints of anything strange.
As Jean got better, Jane got worse. It's almost as though she took on this sickness, this mental illness. She truly started unraveling at the seams.
As her hospital stay comes to an end,
Doctor, thank you so much for helping my wife.
it appears as if Jean has made great strides.
You ready to go home?
Once she started taking these drugs, she quickly regained her balance. She was back to her baseline.
Her family and friends were thrilled. Jean was back to her old self.
After being released from the treatment center, Jean went home and she was back with her family. Everything was going well. And pretty soon, she became pregnant again.
Eager to put the past behind, Jean focuses on her bright future.
She's feeling as if maybe life is returning. She and her husband are feeling much better about their future prospects.
After she became pregnant, Jean's doctor decided to take her off all her medications.
Jean was a good mother, by all accounts, already. And the last thing she wanted to do was to hurt her unborn baby. She quit taking it abruptly. The worst decision she ever made.
One night, just a few months into her pregnancy, Jean sees a familiar figure.
These delusions started coming back, that people were following her and that her life was at risk again.
The medication has been suppressing some of the symptoms. Once it's taken out of the picture, she has no guard against these things.
She felt powerless. She was suffering to such a degree that she didn't feel she could get help anywhere.
Hey, Jane.
So she turns to the only person who understands what she's going through.
Right now.
She's now talking to Jane again about this strange man.
So he's back again. He's back again.
And Jane is ready for this because she wasn't on medication. She didn't lose the delusion. She's ready to support this and recreate this shared delusion.
It was just in there.
It's a rare phenomenon that could have one of two explanations.
A folie aux deux, which is the madness of two. And that is where someone who has a paranoid psychosis or delusion is able to infect or induce similar psychosis in a perfectly healthy person. Twins are vulnerable to that.
Or, since they are twins, the cause could be found in their shared biology.
It could be much more of a genetic disorder. Had they grown up in separate places, they might both have developed a delusional disorder, but with different content.
He's right there. He's right there. I see him.
The fact that they talked to each other and shared their fears, they co-created this dangerous individual who didn't exist.
Let's go in the house.
They were completely delusional, out of touch with reality.
As the hot Texas summer gives way to fall, Jean's symptoms reach frightening new levels.
She would stick Post-it notes up on the wall and wouldn't talk out loud because she felt like the place was bugged and he was listening in.
Jean was convinced that this guy was coming to kill her and her children, and they didn't stand a chance.
It's an evening like any other.
Jean's husband was expected to be late coming home from work on that night. Jean saw that as a perfect opportunity to do what she felt had to be done in order to save herself and her children from this mysterious man.
Jean quietly prepares the last meal she ever plans to make.
When Jean and the kids sat down to dinner, she intended for the three of them to die.
After going off her medication, Jean's psychosis reaches dangerous new heights.
While her husband was at work, she cooked them an evening meal.
But this night, she chopped up pills that she had been prescribed that were left over.
And she laced it with a lot of antidepressant drugs.
At this point, she probably feels some peace of mind that she's finally doing something that will end her misery and keep her children safe.
She intended for the three of them to die.
That night, Jean's husband returns home from work and discovers his worst nightmare has come true.
Jean. Jimmy! Jimmy!
Her husband found them all unconscious in the room.
Riley! Wake up! Please hurry, please!
They were still breathing, and Ray called 911.
It's touch and go for a few hours, but finally, doctors stabilize Jean and her two sons.
They'd had their stomachs pumped to remove the medication. It was clear that there had been an overdose of some kind.
It was a miracle, truly a miracle, because Jean thought that she was going to kill them all and hoped to do so.
Can you tell me exactly what you did with the medication tonight?
Once she wakes up, Jean is questioned by police. She tells them everything.
To save them.
Save them from what?
Save them from man.
It was her understanding or belief that by taking their lives, she was sparing them torture or mistreatment at the hands of whoever she felt was pursuing them.
We're the man that keeps showing up.
It made no sense to any of the people who knew her best. It didn't make sense to her husband. It didn't make sense to her family, her friends.
She saw only that she was doing the right thing. And within that psychosis, she did not appreciate that what she was doing was wrong.
Mr. Bird, can I talk to you for a minute?
I conducted an investigation requesting all her medical records or any mental health records that she had had, looking at the crime scene photos, talking to any witnesses that we would have that could shed some light upon what her culpable mental state was at the time.
Though it is clear Jean suffers from mental illness, the law will still hold her accountable for her actions.
What did you find when you came home tonight?
Jean was indicted for attempted capital murder because she had tried to murder a child under the age of 6. And in fact, she was indicted on 2 counts, one for each child.
While awaiting trial, Jean Bird is sent to the Timberlawn Psychiatric Ward in Dallas.
She was evaluated there, and it was determined that she, in fact, was suffering from a bipolar disorder, a mood disorder, and was then prescribed appropriate medication for that illness.
In addition to resuming her medication, Jean undergoes several months of electric shock therapy. Meanwhile, Jane continues to deny that she too needs help.
She was very concerned about what it would do to her reputation.
And thank you so much for helping out with the kids.
She acted like the perfect sister, like the perfect aunt, the perfect in-law.
Who's that?
But inside, Jane was suffering silently from the same disease that almost killed Jean.
I think it's time for kids to go to bed.
But there is no end in sight for Jane.
She wanted nothing to do with psychiatry. She said it did no good to anyone.
She refused to go for treatment.
Jane has been watching all that's happening with her sister and, of course, is horrified that her sister attempted to commit suicide as well as take her children with her. She will blame the psychiatrist. She will blame the treatment. She believes that it actually made Jean worse rather than better.
As Jane struggles in silence, it appears Jean has begun to improve.
Jean was able to accept the treatment and recognize the need for it and put herself into it.
She had been receiving treatment for some time, and she was no longer insane, and she no longer served as a threat of harm to anyone.
While Jean continues to recover, she gives birth to a healthy baby girl.
Was a bright light in the darkness.
Over 2 years pass without incident in the mental institution. And while Jane keeps her troubles hidden, it is now time for Jean to stand trial for attempted murder.
We looked very closely at whether it was an intentional act or not, but it was clear based on her mental health history that she was clearly not sane at the time of the offense.
The trial is swift and merciful. A judge finds Jean Bird not guilty by reason of insanity.
He was obligated to then commit her to a state institution for an evaluation. And ultimately, it was determined that she was a compliant patient. She was taking her medication. All accounts that she was safe to be around her children.
1 month after her trial, Jean is released under the close supervision of her family.
At this time, Jean is getting better. She's reunited with her husband. She is getting treatment to which she's responding. She's had another baby. She's happier.
The family is there to support her on the long road to full recovery.
They're, of course, going to hope that she's moving through and she'll get past and she'll get back on her feet. Almost every family would feel that way.
Jane was very careful not to tell me about Jean's problems. Obviously, if she tried to kill her kids and herself, there was a serious problem. But she was very careful not to say what the mechanics of the process or equation were. Jane was very protective of Jean.
Still, Jean and her family want a clean start, so they move 20 miles north of Dallas to Plano, Texas.
They didn't want to have to deal with anybody that knew their situation.
The change of scenery is good for Jean, but devastating for the twin left behind.
Jane didn't have that soulmate right down the street anymore.
Left to her own devices, Jane's delusions reach frightening new heights.
She would call me up and say, there's somebody at my window. And I said, well, call the police. I mean, that's who you call. When I went to her house, the lighting was very dark. She maybe had one lamp on for the whole room, and all the windows sealed with drapes. I never understood why she had to keep everything so dark.
She still had her fears that this person from the past was coming after her and the children, and it was getting worse and worse.
Jane claimed that he had put a bomb in her car. Neighbors say that she would check the car time and again before she ever let the kids get in.
Neighbors thought it was very suspicious what she was doing, but it was benign. It wasn't hurting anyone. So I think they probably just thought it was Jane being Jane.
One weekend when ex-husband Clayton takes the kids, Jane pays a visit to her twin sister.
She looked unkempt. She looked like she was exhausted, and mentally she was.
I can't even drink, I can't even think about anything else. He is everywhere.
She told Jean that she was being followed by this same person, and that she was really, really scared for her and her children's life.
Jean knew her sister was terribly, terribly sick. She could be responsible for doing something as heinous as she herself had done.
I'm gonna leave.
Jean understands better than anyone that Jane is potentially dangerous without proper medication.
All they could do was warn Clayton Jane was absolutely not able to be alone with her children that night.
The next morning, Jane arrives at Clayton's house to collect the children.
She looked put together. She looked well rested. All of those were signs that she had not shown for some time.
It seems the storm has passed.
Before the kids come up, I just want to let you know that I talked to Jean. We're going to get you an appointment with somebody that might be able to help you out, okay?
Jane agreed to go into counseling. She said she wanted to find out what was going on. Clayton seemed relieved.
Kids?
He said he would make the appointment for her, knowing that she might not follow through.
I love y'all, okay?
She promised if an appointment was made, she would go to the therapist that very day.
Be good.
So he was comfortable giving her Clay and Olivia to take home.
But he has no idea from this moment on, their lives will never be the same.
You guys be good, okay?
After promising to get treatment, Jane takes her kids home.
She'd carefully laid a plan that she was going to finally escape this evil threat.
And now that she has her children to herself,
Come on in, kids.
Jane puts her real plan into action.
That afternoon, Clayton had made a doctor's appointment for Jane, and he started calling her to give her the details.
Mr. Elliott made several attempts to contact his ex-wife by phone and was not getting an answer. He became concerned, so he decided to go to the house.
Call it premonition, call it a father's instinct. He knew when Jane's car was in the driveway.
Jane?
And that she had not answered the phone all day long.
Jane!
Something was not right.
Jane!
The front door was locked, so he then walked around to the back of the house and saw a door standing ajar. He then made entry into the house.
In the kitchen, Clayton discovers the unthinkable.
He found his baby boy's body lying lifeless on the floor with a towel covering the bloody mess made of his little body.
He checks vital signs and sees that he's definitely dead.
Jane? Olivia?
He ran outside to his car
Police?
and started calling 911. Clayton was in hysterics. He was screaming, "My son is dead, my son is dead."
Clayton returns to the house and slowly heads upstairs.
Jane? Answer me!
The mother was in the bathtub, and then the little girl was on the floor. Each of them, the young boy and the little girl, and then Miss Hopkins, each had multiple stab wounds that had been inflicted, as best we could determine, by Miss Hopkins herself.
It was one of the most violent crimes they'd ever seen. The children had multiple stab wounds. Jane stabbed herself multiple times in the chest, through the heart and in her neck before she died.
In her mind, this is definitive. No one can rescue them.
Police saw that Jane had carefully attached 6 notes all over the house, including one that read, "They are angels, pray for us, please forgive me."
In her sick mind, she truly believed she did what she had to do.
Jane's death is classified as a suicide, and her children's deaths are labeled homicides. The news hits hard.
Everybody was in shock. Everyone was in grief. How could she do this? It wasn't Jane that did this. She was a very gentle person. At her memorial service, we all compared notes about whoever the stalker was and the bombs and so forth. That sealed it for me. She had a serious mental illness.
Despite appearances, what neither twin realized was within them was a ticking time bomb.
Despite their parallel lives, Jean and Jane Hopkins dealt with their shared madness in different ways.
I think Jean finally accepted that she did have a problem, and she did need to stay on her meds, otherwise she would get sick again. Jane, who didn't like psychiatry and really wanted nothing to do with it, did not want to take medication, and this was probably her downfall.
In the cold light of tragedy, those that knew the Hopkins twins tried to make sense from the sadness.
Some crimes, the motivation is brought on by greed, malice, revenge. This was not one of those crimes.
Jean and Jane Hopkins were not evil. The mental illness itself was evil.